Today's project is the feather stitch ear warmer. This feather stitch pattern is the same on both sides, making it perfectly cozy for winter months. You'll need a bulky weight yarn, a 6.5 millimeter hook, scissors, a large eye needle, and a large button. So we'll start with an adjustable loop, and we're going to be creating about 41 foundation half double crochet stitches, and this is how we start. Chain 2, yarn over and place the hook in that very first chain. Yarn over, pull the yarn through. I'm going to yarn over again and pull it through the first loop and pull it up a little bit and yarn over and pull through all three. So that's the first. Yarn over. We're going to go ahead, make sure you go into both of those little loops, pull it up, yarn over, pull it through the first loop, and yarn over, pull through three. You're going to continue this basically to an odd number. For this headband, I think I did about 37, but I think it'll be best to do about 41 for most people. Once you get to the end, I'll show you what to do next. Once you've completed your final half double crochet foundation stitch, you'll chain 1, turn over your work, and half double crochet in that very first stitch. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and half double crochet into the next. Chain 1 again, skip the next stitch, and half double crochet into the next stitch. You will continue to repeat this pattern until you reach the end. So this is what your open weave pattern will look like. When you reach the end, you'll continue the pattern. Here I'll show you the last few stitches. Of course, continue to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and half double crochet into the next. And at the very end of your work, you will half double crochet. For the next row, chain 1 and turn your work. Half double crochet into the very first half double crochet. Chain 1, and now we'll begin the very first feather stitch. Yarn over, place your hook into the first chain 1 space and pull up your loop. Yarn over again, and now we're going to place the hook into the skip stitch of the previous row right underneath. Pull that loop up and yarn over for the third time and place the hook into the very next chain 1 space. You should have 7 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over and pull right through all 7 loops and chain 1 to close. Now we'll repeat the feather stitch. Yarn over, place the hook into the same chain 1 space and pull your loop up. Yarn over, place the hook into the skip stitch of the previous row right underneath and pull that loop up. Yarn over, place the hook into the next chain 1 space, pull that loop up, and yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. Chain 1 to lock it. Let's go over the feather stitch again for good measure. Yarn over, place the hook into the same chain 1 space, pull that loop up, yarn over, place the hook into the skip stitch of the previous row, right underneath, yarn over, and place the hook into the next chain one space and chain one. Continue until the end of your work. Now moving towards the end of this piece, we're going to continue with the feather stitch. It's very beautiful and fluffy, and this is exactly the same on one side as it is on the other. So now we'll complete our final feather stitch on this row, continuing with the feather stitch pattern. And once we place the hook in that final one, we'll pull it through and chain one, and simply half double crochet right on this last half double crochet on the corner. Take a look at this beautiful Charisma yarn by Loops and Threads. The colors are very vibrant. Chain one, turn your work for the next row, and half double crochet into that very first half double crochet stitch. Chain one and continue with the feather stitch. Yarn over, place the hook in the first chain one space, yarn over, and this time we're going to place it in that chain one space of the previous row. Pull up the loop and yarn over and place the hook into the chain one space of the next stitch, and yarn over and pull through all the loops. Chain one, and we're going to repeat that. Yarn over, place the hook into the same chain one space, yarn over, and place the hook right here into this little chain one space, and pull up the loop, yarn over, and place it in the chain one space. Pull up that loop, yarn over, and pull it through. Chain one. Continue with the feather stitch, yarn over, place the hook into the same chain one space, and here's the difference. Yarn over and place the hook in the previous row, the chain one space, yarn over, place the hook into the next chain one space, pull up your loop, and yarn over and pull it through all the loops. Chain one. And repeat this beautiful pattern of feather stitches until you reach the end of your work. And once you've reached the end, half double crochet into that very last half double crochet at the corner. Now moving on to the final row, chain one and turn your work. Now half double crochet into the very first half double crochet and chain one. Continue your feather stitch pattern in this final row of feather stitches before you move on to the trimming. Once you reach the end, complete your very last feather stitch. and half double crochet into the last half double crochet of that row. Next, chain 1, turn your work, and half double crochet into that very first half double crochet on the end. Next, you'll half double crochet into that chain 1 space and half double crochet into the very top of the feather stitch, the chain where all the stitches or all the 7 loops gather. You'll continue this, half double crochet into the chain 1 space and half double crochet into the top of the next feather stitch, and continue till the end. It'll be nice and even, going in between every chain 1 space and the chain at the top of your feather stitches. This will make this final row match the initial half double crochet foundation chain that you created in the beginning of this project. Now turn that corner, and working along the ends of rows, we will chain 2, and we're going to double crochet along the ends of these rows. I think I did there's 1, maybe about 7 or 8 stitches, 2, and just try to double crochet evenly along the side. There's 3 and 4. You kind of feel your way through this one to make sure it's not pulling too tight or you're not adding too many stitches. I think we're at 5 here. You're kind of creating your own spaces. 6. And 7. And here is the 8th and final double crochet stitch. Go ahead and cut that yarn, maybe a little longer than I cut it. Give yourself a little bit more room to sew or weave in the ends, and tie a knot to fasten off. Now grab your large eye needle and weave in all ends. If I had left the tail a little longer, I could weave back and forth, but I did it a little bit too short, so I'm just weaving in one time and cutting it. The great thing about this pattern is it's so fluffy, it's easy to hide the ends inside of this beautiful pattern, and it can literally be reversible. Either side will work. But since we're using a button, we're going to choose a side and thread our large eye needle with the yarn that we have chosen for this project, and this time leave about 2 inches hanging for the tail so we can learn from our mistakes. Sew your chosen novelty button on the edge where you created the double crochet trim, right on the top, and crisscross it. Turn your work over, and we're going to tie a knot, again leaving a nice amount of space so that we can weave in the ends. Tie those knots nice and tight, keep that button on there, tighten everything up, and weave in the ends. once you've sewn your button on, you can use any of the spaces created on the other end of the headband to button it closed. You can trim it if you want. I didn't find it necessary, so I just buttoned it up. And now we have a beautiful textured feather stitch ear warmer. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we post a new video.